I'm Pamela Hall. I'm a Conservative councillor from Chester, and I'm the Deputy Chairman for the Regional North West team, supporting Saj and his colleagues to get elected to the European Parliament next month. It's a pleasure for me tonight to introduce Saeed Kamal, the leader of the Conservative MEPs in the European Parliament. Saeed is a hard-working MEP from London, and he's delighted to be up north with us tonight. He's familiar with the North West, having attended university in Liverpool, and as an Evertonian, I'm afraid to say he left with a love of Liverpool Football Club. So he's a very happy man at the moment. Please welcome Saeed Kamal.
Thank you very much, Pamela. Prime Minister, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. When Saj told me what sort of event he was going to put on, I knew it would be impressive, but I never thought it would be this strong. And I'm extremely grateful to all of you for making the effort to be with us here this evening. Saj and I have just come back from the European Parliament in Brussels, where we held a voting session. Just today, we voted on whether to lift custom duties for Ukraine, on the fees that banks charge when you use your credit card, and your mobile phone bill when you go abroad. And that was just one day. Whatever you think of the European Union, and whatever you think of the European Parliament, let us remember that when it comes to law, the European Parliament has equal power with the 28 countries of the European Union. So don't let anyone tell you that the European Parliament is just a talking shop. Whether you like it or not, it matters who you elect as your MEP. And here in the North West, you are very lucky to have Conservative MEPs who fight for the best deal for Britain and for the North West. Let us just look at Saj's track record. Working with a Conservative Prime Minister, he's led the agenda on cutting EU red tape, especially for the smallest businesses in the North West. Thanks to Saj, for the first time, the European Parliament is looking at the idea of giving national parliaments, such as Westminster, a red card to stop EU legislation. And thanks to Saj, we have blocked some of the more stupid proposals from Brussels, such as banning hairdressers from wearing high heels. But Saj has never forgotten where he's come from. Let us not forget that thanks to Saj, 3-year-old Atiya Anjum Wilkinson was brought back home to her mother after her father snatched her away and left her in a hidden location in Pakistan. Thanks to Saj, Mirza Tahir Hussain, who had been on death row for 18 years, was released. And thanks to Saj and his chairmanship of the European Parliament Friends of Pakistan group, the textile industry in Pakistan has easier access to markets of the European Union. This is a great record of achievement, and so I ask that you all come out to help Saj this May so that he can continue to deliver for the communities of the North West. But let us not forget what happens when good people don't turn out to vote. You get bad MEPs. And you know that in 2009, low turnout led to a BNP MEP being elected for the region. Never again should we allow this to happen. A lot of people have said that reform of the EU isn't possible. It can't be achieved. But I'm reminded of what my father used to say to me. My father came to Britain in the 1950s. He worked on the railways and then he worked as a bus driver. And he told me, there is no limit to what you can achieve if you believe in Allah, believe in yourself, and work hard. Saj and I believe that, which is why we are both here and have the privilege of standing before you here tonight. And we hope that we are simply opening the door for you and your children to do the same. Those who say to you that you can't achieve anything are showing their limitations, not yours. And I believe we can achieve reform of the EU if we're willing to work for it. I'm proud to be here tonight with two people who are working hard for reform of the European Union, our Prime Minister David Cameron and my colleague in the European Parliament, Sajjad Karim. But you didn't come here to listen to me tonight. You came here to listen to Saj and to welcome our Prime Minister. So I give you, ladies and gentlemen, my good colleague from the North West, Sajjad Karim.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Prime Minister, High Commissioner of Pakistan, ladies and gentlemen, Assalamu alaikum, Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, and good evening. May I firstly welcome you all as my guests here this evening for this very special occasion. Prime Minister, it really is a tremendous honor for us that you have joined the British Asian community here in the Northwest this evening. I clearly recall a conversation we had sat in your Westminster office some 7 years ago. You have fulfilled your commitment to me many, many times over. My community greatly values the way in which you have built your relationship with us, and I thank you for that. It is now my 10th year serving the Northwest as a parliamentarian, and 20th year serving in a publicly elected office. I hope that it's beginning to show. It was just as sweet for me, however, when as a councillor I secured the first 20-mile-per-hour zone for my ward, as it was to become the first Muslim from Britain to be elected to the European Parliament. It really is a huge privilege and pleasure representing such a diverse region. It is only right that we see the future development of our nation through the foundations of our history, a history based upon the contributions of so many, sometimes in very distant lands, but always with a commitment to our shared values and identity. Just as Her Majesty the Queen started her Jubilee celebrations, shrouded in the tremendous diversity of Leicester, it is essential that on the remembrance of the First World War, we follow Her Majesty's lead and remember all those who sacrificed so we could be free today. On the battlefields of Belgium, fighting under the British flag, despite his company being overrun and killed, a sole soldier fought gallantly, and despite being seriously injured, he manned his gun, delaying the enemy just long enough for reinforcements to arrive and prevent a final breakthrough and the capture of vital positions. Such was his bravery that he was presented with the Victoria Cross. That soldier was Khudadad Khan. Far too many people in our nation are unaware of our own history. And it is this lack of awareness which is today creating many political challenges for us. We are an open, outward-looking, ambitious nation with tremendous strengths and an ability to face challenges and succeed. But our core value is not success at any cost. Success with equity and principle is our value. Our international relations and standing allow us to always be the leading nation fighting within the EU to strengthen relations with Pakistan, India, and Bangladesh. Our government's approach under your leadership has allowed Conservative MEPs who lead friends groups to ensure that we have delivered vital trade deals, but we have always safeguarded human rights in doing so. Today, so much of what is coming from political upstarts, and indeed from some of our opponents, is not what British Asians recognise as reflective of Britain. These upstarts can simply wake up and announce they want us to stop our international aid programmes on a whim. The Britain we as a community helped to build does not turn its back on the poorest in the world on a whim. Our Britain is compassionate, and we stand by our word. They argue that we should only look inwards to find solutions to problems which go beyond our borders. They argue our future lies in isolation. They are wrong. Our future lies in leadership. The sum of our ambitions should not be to become another Switzerland or Norway, fine nations as they are. Our history and our present dictate a very different path for us. Our Scottish brethren are about to embark on a defining decision for our nation. Prime Minister, I intend to lead a groundswell of support from the Northwest British Asian community and to take up your call for us to reach out to our Scottish neighbours, many of whom are our friends and family, and to ensure they know how much we value our unity. We must understand that those who propagate disunity ultimately weaken us at home and abroad, in all forums, whether it is the WTO, the EU, or indeed the United Nations. And if we secure a Conservative government after the next general election, we will have our say on Europe too. Prime Minister, at that point, I want to be able to campaign in the interests of my nation. That is why I have busied myself with delivering on your reform agenda, delivering reductions in burdens for businesses, and ensuring that national parliaments once again are restored with the ability to stop the EU in its tracks if it is not listening. Your EU budget reduction success certainly did that too. But to win the general election, there is much work that we as a party must do. I recognise that despite the shared values between British Asians and the Conservative Party, in many places we simply are not cementing on this. This must change, and it is incumbent upon our party to reach out. Without that, we will not become truly reflective of modern-day Britain. Yes, we do have many success stories upon which we can build, whether it is Syed or Saida, Sajid or Sajad, but build we must through the electoral system. I am myself, once again, about to face that electoral challenge right here in the Northwest. But to know that I have my Prime Minister and party leaders' confidence gives me strength in the eyes of my electorate. I hope to deliver the Northwest once again for our European team, and will be calling upon you all to help make this happen. Our diversity is amongst our greatest strengths, and that is the platform upon which I wish to build. A strong United Kingdom taking leadership in Europe and playing its part on the international stage, with the British Asian community's contribution clear for all to see. Prime Minister, if you would please allow me to say a few words in Urdu. What was that, Prime Minister?
That's all the Urdu I know.
He's showing off now. Ladies and gentlemen, please join with me in welcoming the Right Honourary David Cameron, Prime Minister of the United Kingdom.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Saj. It's great to be here, and that was a thoughtful, a powerful, and an important speech about our party and what you bring to our party and what our party is going to achieve together. Now, yours is a tough job. You have a constituency that stretches from Crewe to Carlisle, a 700-mile commute from Manchester to Brussels, but you do it brilliantly. You are a great ambassador for the party, for the region, and for the United Kingdom. Now, I've known, give him a round of applause. Now, I've known Saj for some years now, and although I can tease him, he's lost a little bit more hair than I have. I can't gloat too much because he's certainly lost more weight. But he's looking great, and many of you know Saj really well. But few know of the tough times that he's faced, like when the dreadful thugs of the English Defence League held protests outside his house, or when he fled the terrorist gunshots during the Mumbai attacks. And of course, there was that moment when he got caught up in a weird cult. He started wearing sandals, eating muesli, wearing a woolly hat, never washing. Everyone was very worried about him, but then it turned out okay. He left the Liberal Democrats and he came to join the Conservatives. Now, we have got some great British Asians at the top of our politics. In government, Sajid Javid and Saeeda Warsi, the first Muslim woman in a cabinet in British history. In the House of Commons, Alok Sharma, Priti Patel, Raymond Chisti, Shailesh Vara, and Paul Uppal, the only Sikh MP in the House of Commons. In the Lords, we have Tariq Ahmad, Dola Popat, Mohammed Sheikh, and Sandy Verma. And in Europe, of course, Saj, Nirj Deva, and Saeed Kamal, who you heard from tonight. He is the leader of the Conservative Party in Europe, the only British Asian to lead a party in Parliament, and once again, just as we did with the first woman Prime Minister, it's the Conservatives leading the way. But my friends, we need to go further and faster. Not because it ticks some box or fills some quota, but because a more representative Parliament is a stronger Parliament. To do the best job for Britain, we need a Parliament that looks, thinks, and acts like all of Britain. But we shouldn't stop, and we won't stop, until we see more British Asians make it to the top of every field. The army, the judiciary, the media, the police, and that is what I'm determined to see in our country. Now, the values I see among our Asian parliamentarians are the values that I see among British Asians. These values make our nation stronger, like the importance of family. Family first, no compromise, looking out for each other, sticking together. I experienced that when I went to live with a Muslim family in Birmingham. Tight-knit, resilient, independent. And for me, that sums up so many Asian families. Families are the bedrock of our society. And that's why we in the Conservative Party are proud to do more to help with childcare, more to help with school choice, and yes, more to back marriage in our tax system. Then there is the commitment to community. I've seen it for myself time and again, like at the Jamia Mosque here in Manchester, which I attended last Ramadan. It isn't just a place of worship, it's a youth club, a school, a meeting place. And it isn't just for British Muslims, because they throw open their doors to the whole community at events like the big iftar. And believe me, they rope everyone in to mucking in. When I went, I ended up chopping onions and frying samosas. Now, the point is this. Long before I started talking about the big society, Asian communities here in Britain and around the world were living the big society, and that is so vital for our national life. Then there is the enthusiasm for enterprise, a value we need perhaps now more in our nation's history than ever. That get up and go that gets British Asians to the top of business, like B&M Retail, who've opened a new store each week, like the C-Mark Group, who sell their food throughout our country, like New Look, which started as Tom Singh's single shop and is now a global chain. Very often the spirit of family, community, and enterprise are interwoven. I think of the Best Way Group, one of the top family businesses in our country, which does so much to support education and to give opportunities to the next generation. So family, community, enterprise. These are British Asian values. They bring so much to our country, from building businesses to teaching in schools, from running public services to excelling in the arts. This is a real story of successful integration. But integration doesn't mean that you have to give up the things that you hold dear in your religion. We should respect that. So in finance, I am proud to be the British Prime Minister that will deliver that Islamic bond, the Sukuk, here in our country. In education, we back faith schools. And of course we care about animal rights, but we care about people's rights to eat the traditional food that their religion dictates. And let me tell you, as long as I am Prime Minister, you can assure that halal meat is here to stay in Britain. Now, there's something else I want to tell you today. There are some big challenges ahead, and your backing will be vital. First, as Sajid said, we must keep our United Kingdom united. In fewer than 6 months, Scotland will vote on whether to go it alone. For the North West, Scotland is next door. You have close ties over the border. And while you may not have a vote, you do have a voice. So phone your families, text your friends, email your business associates, and tell them our nations would be weaker apart. We are stronger together. We've done so much together, and let us keep our family of nations together for a stronger future. And we need your backing to get a better deal in Europe. It's simple. We need a European Union that works for Britain. No to endless bureaucracy, but yes to more trade. No to more and more red tape, but yes to a competitive and dynamic Europe. In me, you have a Prime Minister who has cut the EU budget for the first time ever, who vetoed a treaty that wasn't in our interests, who will always stand up for Britain in Europe. And it is the same with Saj, with Saeed, and the team. He is there fighting the tide of regulation that crushes our businesses. He's working for a free trade agreement between Europe and India. He wants more jobs over there and more opportunities here. But he also spearheaded something that we should be really proud of, and I fought for it myself in the European Council with the 27 other countries around the table too. After the devastating floods in Pakistan, it was the Conservatives in Westminster, in Brussels, in that European Council, who said it's not just aid that these people need, it is trade. And it was us, yes, us, Britain, who ensured that Pakistan was given tariff-free access to the European Union. So Sarge is part of a great team, a team that fights tooth and nail for Britain in Europe. And the choice at these elections is clear. Labour and the Liberals won't give people a say. UKIP can't give people a say. Only the Conservatives, a strong Conservative Prime Minister, strong Conservative MEPs can deliver real change in Europe. And only we can and will deliver that in-out referendum. Now, above all, we need your backing for our long-term economic plan. It has 5 parts, and each part goes right to the heart of what I believe all of us in this room believe. 1, dealing with the deficit and our debts. We must not leave our children to pay our debts. This is not in our national mindset, and it's also at the heart of our faiths. Islam instructs us to write down our debts and leave nothing out. Hinduism teaches us to gain wealth by honest and lawful means. And Christianity tells us that a good man leaves an inheritance to his children's children. So we are getting the deficit down day by day, bit by bit. It's down by 1/3 already. We will have halved it soon. That means less money being wasted on interest payments and more money to be spent on our schools, hospitals, and services. Part 2 of our plan, cutting taxes. This is so important to Conservatives because we get this simple fact. You put in the hours, you work the early mornings, the late nights, and that money you earn, it's not the government's money, it is your money. And we want you to keep more of it. Part 3 of the plan, we need to create more jobs by backing business. I know, you know, we know, it is vital to people's peace of mind to be able to get out, do a day's work, and provide for their families. And listen to this. Since that 2010 election, 1.7 million more jobs have been created in the private sector here in Britain. Just think, that is 1.7 million more people, 1.7 more families with more hope, mothers and fathers who are able to better provide for their families, and I think everyone in this room can be proud of that fact. Part 4, we've got to cap welfare and properly control immigration. This is about getting British people, your sons, your daughters, nephews and nieces, back to work. It's about delivering for people who work hard, who play by the rules. And it is delivering. The number of people claiming out-of-work benefits has fallen by more than 600,000. Part 5 of our plan might even be the most important of all, education. And again, this goes to the heart of our faiths. In Sikhism, where there is a huge importance placed on teaching the next generation. And in Islam, where the best gift to a child is their education and upbringing. That is why we are bringing a revolution in our schools. Tougher exams, more discipline, highly qualified teachers, and record numbers of apprenticeships too. So that is our long-term plan, and it's working. We see it in manufacturing up, the deficit down, one of the fastest growing economies in the world. And this isn't just about what the government has done, it is thanks to you. The hours you put in, the jobs you create, the businesses you start, the example you set, you all make our country stronger. So thank you. Help us stick to the plan, help us secure Britain's future. And my friends, above all, help us campaign and fight to get those vital votes out for Sarge, for the great team of MEPs and candidates here in the Northwest. We want them working. We want them in Brussels. We want them fighting for our interests, fighting for Britain. We want them returned. Let's do everything we can to make it happen. Thank you very much.